I'm David, and when my boss handed me that termination letter with a smirk, he didn't know I'd been documenting everything for 6 months. Every forged signature, every falsified inspection report, every time he made me lie to a client about faulty wiring that could burn their house down. I had it all. Audio recordings, photographs, emails I'd forwarded to a private account. As I walked out of Henderson & Sons Electrical with my cardboard box of desk junk, Richard Henderson actually patted me on the shoulder like we were old friends. "Nothing personal, Dave," he said, "just business." I wanted to tell him right then what was coming, but I just nodded and kept walking. Sometimes the best revenge is the kind they never see coming.
My alarm went off at 5:47 a.m. that Tuesday morning, same as it had for the past 18 years. I'm not a snooze button guy, never have been. You grow up in a house where your dad worked 2 jobs just to keep the lights on, you learn that every minute counts. I rolled out of bed, my knees cracking like bubble wrap, and padded down the hallway of our modest 3-bedroom in Riverside. The mortgage was $2,840 a month, and we'd been scraping by on that payment since 2019. My wife Sarah was already up, her laptop glowing in the pre-dawn darkness at the kitchen table. She worked from home doing medical billing, which was a blessing after her mom got sick last year. Stage 3 breast cancer. The treatments were working, thank God, but someone needed to drive her to appointments twice a week. "Coffee's ready," Sarah said without looking up, her fingers flying across the keyboard. She had this way of multitasking that I'd never quite mastered. "You're a saint." I poured myself a cup from the ancient Mr. Coffee machine we'd gotten as a wedding gift 14 years ago. The thing was held together with duct tape and hope, but it still brewed a decent cup. Saint Sarah, patron of overworked husbands and broken appliances. She finally glanced up, and I saw the dark circles under her eyes. "Did you sleep at all?" "Couple hours. There's a backlog of claims from the hospital merger." She rubbed her eyes. "Hey, did you remember Jake's parent-teacher conference is Thursday at 4? Jake, our 12-year-old son who'd recently discovered both video games and the art of selective hearing. "It's in my calendar. I'll leave work early." "Will Henderson let you?" That was the question, wasn't it? Richard Henderson, owner of Henderson & Sons Electrical, wasn't exactly known for his flexibility, or his compassion, or his adherence to, the law. "I'll make it work," I said, which was code for, "I'll tell him I have a doctor's appointment and deal with his guilt trip later." I've been Henderson's senior electrician since 2007, worked my way up from apprentice, got my master electrician license, trained probably 24 guys who came through the company over the years. I was the one who opened the shop at 6:30 every morning, the one clients asked for by name, the one who could troubleshoot a commercial panel blindfolded. Richard's actual sons, Tyler and Brandon, were about as useful as screen doors on a submarine, but they drew salaries twice mine because, well, nepotism. The thing is, I'd always been loyal, maybe too loyal. When Richard cut corners, I told myself it was just the pressure of running a small business. When he asked me to pass inspections on questionable work, I rationalized that it was probably fine. When he had me forge his signature on permits because he was too busy, I convinced myself I was just being a team player. But 6 months ago, something shifted. It was a residential job out in Maple Grove, new construction, beautiful house, probably $800,000 worth of modern farmhouse aesthetic. The Petersons, young couple with a baby on the way. I was doing the final walkthrough before the inspector came, and I found it. A junction box, hidden in the wall cavity, no access panel, just drywalled over. Whoever had done it, and I had my suspicions it was Tyler, had used undersized wire for a 240-volt circuit. It was a fire waiting to happen. I called Richard from the site. "We need to open this wall and redo the junction. This won't pass inspection, and even if it did, it's dangerous." There was a long pause. "How much will that cost?" "Materials, maybe $300, plus labor. But Richard, this is..." "Dave." His voice got that hard edge it always did when money was involved. "We're already over budget on this job. The Petersons are breathing down my neck. Just make it work." "Make it work? I can't just..." "You're my senior guy. You know how to handle inspectors. Do what you need to do." He hung up before I could argue. I stood there in that empty house, smelling the fresh drywall compounded sawdust, and I had this moment of absolute clarity. I couldn't do this anymore. Not because I'd suddenly grown a conscience, I'd been ignoring mine for years, but because I was 40 years old, and I couldn't spend the rest of my life wondering when one of these shortcuts was going to kill someone. But here's the thing about being 40 with a mortgage and a kid and a wife whose mother had cancer. You can't just quit. We had $3,400 in savings. That was it. That was our cushion between comfortable and catastrophic. So I made a different choice. I pulled out my phone, opened the voice recorder app, and I started documenting everything. That first recording was shaky. I wasn't sure what I was doing or what I'd do with it. I just knew I needed insurance, some kind of proof that I wasn't the one making these decisions. I narrated what I'd found, took photographs of the hidden junction box, and then, God help me, I did what Richard asked me. I sweet-talked the inspector, an older guy named Carl who I'd worked with for years, and he signed off on the job. The Petersons moved into their beautiful new house with a ticking time bomb in their walls, and I went home and couldn't eat dinner. "Are you okay?" Sarah asked that night. We were in bed, her reading some thriller novel, me staring at the ceiling. "Yeah, just tired." "Work?" "Work," I confirmed, which wasn't a lie exactly, just not the whole truth. Over the next 6 months, I became a different kind of electrician. I still did my job. I was good at it, took pride in it. But I also became a documentarian. Every time Richard asked me to do something questionable, I recorded it. Every forged signature, I photographed. Every cut corner, I logged, with dates and details. There was the strip mall renovation where we used aluminum wire instead of copper to save $2,000, and then lied on the materials list. There was the restaurant kitchen where Richard had me bypass the GFCI requirements because the owner didn't want to pay for them. There was a warehouse job where we used uncertified subcontractors who didn't pull permits. I built a case. I didn't know what I'd do with it, but I built it. My phone filled with recordings. I bought a 256 megabyte memory card and backed up everything to a cloud account Richard didn't know existed. I started forwarding emails to a private Gmail address. Just copied myself on anything that could be evidence. I became paranoid and methodical in equal measure. Sarah noticed I was distant. Jake noticed I was distracted. I told them I was fine, just stressed about work, which was true enough. The breaking point came on a Thursday in early October. We just landed a big contract, a new medical office building, $180,000 job, the kind of work that could carry the company for months. Richard was ecstatic. He actually brought donuts to the shop that morning, which should have been my first warning sign. Richard Henderson bringing donuts meant Richard Henderson wanted something. "Gentlemen," he announced to the crew as we gathered in the break room. There were 5 of us, me, Tyler, Brandon, and 2 younger guys, Marcus and Jose. "We're looking at the biggest job of the year. Medical office, 6 examination rooms, full surgical suite, server room, the works. This is the kind of client that leads to more work, referrals, reputation." Tyler bit into a jelly donut, red filling oozing onto his shirt. He didn't notice. "When do we start?" "Demo begins Monday. But here's the thing." Richard's smile faltered slightly. "They're on a tight timeline. The practice wants to be operational by January 1st. That gives us 11 weeks. I set down my coffee. 11 weeks for a job this size? Richard, the permitting alone. Already handled. I've got connections at City Hall. We'll fast-track it. Fast-track doesn't mean skip steps, I said carefully. Medical facilities have specific code requirements. The electrical for a surgical suite isn't something we can rush. Richard's eyes locked on mine. There was a warning in them. Dave, I need my senior electrician on board with this. Are you on board? The room went quiet. Marcus and Jose suddenly found their phones very interesting. I should have said no right there. I should have walked out. But I thought about Sarah's face when I told her about my bonus last Christmas. $3,000 that we'd used to fix the transmission in her car. I thought about Jake's braces, which we'd finally be able to afford next year. I thought about the health insurance that covered her mom's treatments. I'm on board, I heard myself say, but we do it right. Richard's smile returned. Of course. That's why you're the best, Dave. That's why you're my guy. The medical office job started like most jobs, full of optimism and good intentions. The first week was demo, pulling out the old electrical from what used to be a furniture store. The second week, we started running new circuits. The work itself was straightforward enough, but the timeline was insane. We were working 10, 12-hour days. Richard kept pushing, kept saying we were behind schedule. By week 3, I started noticing problems. The wire we had ordered, 12-gauge copper, standard for most circuits, wasn't what showed up. Instead, we got aluminum. Now, aluminum wire isn't illegal, but it requires special connectors and careful installation. It's cheaper than copper, and it was clear Richard had made a substitution to save money. I confronted him in his office, a cluttered space that smelled of coffee and desperation. "Richard, we can't use aluminum wire for this job. It's not rated for the—" "It's fine, Dave. I've used aluminum wire on dozens of jobs. Not in a medical facility. The code specifically—" "The code says a lot of things. Nobody checks every wire." He leaned back in his chair. "Look, we're already over budget on labor because of the timeline. I need to make this up somewhere." I felt my jaw clench. If an inspector catches this, they won't. And if they do, we'll say it was a supplier error and fix it. He waved his hand dismissively. "This is how business works, Dave. You've been around long enough to know that." I left his office feeling sick, but I also pulled out my phone and recorded a memo. October 19th, 2024, Henderson substituted aluminum wire for copper on the medical center job. When I objected, citing code violations, he told me nobody checks every wire and to install it anyway. That night, I sat in my truck in the parking lot for 20 minutes before driving home.
The thing about burning bridges is you need to make sure you're not standing on them when they go up in flames. I spent that whole Monday calling lawyers, 7 of them. The first 4 said employment law wasn't their specialty. The 5th said I had a case but seemed bored. The 6th told me it would cost more in legal fees than I'd ever recover. The 7th was named Patricia Chen, and she listened to my story for 45 minutes without interrupting. "Do you have any of this documented?" she asked when I finished. "All of it." "Define all of it." I pulled up my phone. Audio recordings of Richard Henderson telling me to violate electrical code. Photographs of the violations. Videos with timestamps. Emails I forwarded to myself where he explicitly ordered me to forge his signature on permits. 6 months of documentation covering probably 40 different code violations across 12 job sites. There was a long pause. "Mr. Morrison, I'm going to be honest with you. This isn't just an employment case. What you're describing is systematic fraud, building code violations that put public safety at risk, and possibly criminal misconduct. This is significant. Can you help me?" "Help you do what exactly? Sue for wrongful termination? Because that's the tip of a very large iceberg." I thought about the Petersons in their beautiful farmhouse with faulty wiring in the walls. I thought about the medical center, where doctors would soon be performing surgeries powered by improperly installed electrical systems. I thought about all the clients who trusted Richard Henderson because he was a local business owner with a good reputation. "I want to do the right thing," I said. "Whatever that is." Patricia Chen was quiet for a moment. "The right thing is going to be complicated and expensive, and it's going to make you very unpopular in your industry." "I'm already fired. How much worse can it get?" She laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Let me make some calls. Don't talk to anyone else about this. Don't post on social media. Don't contact Henderson. Just sit tight and let me figure out the best approach." That night, I had to tell Sarah. We waited until Jake was in bed, his door closed, the sound of video game explosions muffled through the walls. I poured us both whiskey, which we only did for serious conversations. "I got fired today." Sarah's glass stopped halfway to her lips. "What?" I told her everything. The 6 months of documentation, Richard's corner cutting, the medical center job, the termination letter. She listened without interrupting, her face cycling through shock, anger, and fear. "So what now?" she asked when I finished. "I'm talking to a lawyer, Patricia Chen. She thinks I might have a taste, but it's more complicated than just wrongful termination." "How complicated?" "Criminal investigation complicated. Building code inspector involvement complicated. Potentially testifying against the guy I worked for 18 years. Complicated. Sarah drained her whiskey. We have $3,000 in savings. I know. My mom's next treatment is in 2 weeks. I know. Jake needs braces. I know, Sarah. I know all of it. I rubbed my face. But I also know that medical center is going to open in January with electrical work that could kill someone. I know there are houses out there with fire hazards in their walls. I know Richard is going to do this to the next guy and the next because he always gets away with it. So you're going to be a whistleblower. She said it like she was testing the word. I'm going to do the right thing. Finally. She poured herself another whiskey. You should have done the right thing 6 months ago. Hell, 6 years ago. I know. But you didn't because you were scared, because we needed the money, because it was easier to go along. She wasn't being cruel, just honest. Yeah. And now you're going to risk everything because he fired you. That's revenge, David, not righteousness. I couldn't argue with that. She was right. If Richard hadn't fired me, would I have ever used the evidence? Or would I have just kept collecting it, kept rationalizing, kept taking a paycheck while people's lives were at risk? Maybe it's both, I said. Maybe I'm angry enough to finally do what I should have done all along. Sarah looked at me for a long time. Then she reached across the table and took my hand. Okay, but we do this smart. We don't act out of spite. We make sure we're protected. We think about Jake, about Mom, about what we can actually live with afterward. Deal. And David, she squeezed my hand. Whatever happens, we handle it together. But no more secrets, no more doing the wrong thing because it's easier. Not ever again. No more secrets, I agreed. Patricia Chen called me 2 days later with a plan. I've spoken with the county building inspector's office, the state licensing board, and a prosecutor friend who specializes in construction fraud. Everyone is very interested in what you have. Is that good? It's leverage. Here's what I'm proposing. We offer Henderson a choice. He can settle with you privately, a substantial severance payment, reinstatement of your reputation, written acknowledgement that the code violations were his decisions, or we take everything you've documented to the authorities and let them sort it out. You want me to blackmail him? I want you to negotiate from a position of strength. What Henderson did to you was illegal. What he's done on these job sites is dangerous and possibly criminal. We're giving him a chance to make it right privately before it becomes a public disaster. And if he refuses, then we go nuclear. I file the wrongful termination suit, we submit your evidence to the building inspector's office, and we let the chips fall where they may. But David, you need to understand what that means. You'll become the guy who turned in his boss. Other contractors won't want to hire you. You might have trouble getting work in this town. I thought about that. About the practical implications of doing the right thing. About how justice in the real world was messy and expensive and often left everyone worse off. What kind of settlement are we talking about? 1 year's salary, call it $75,000, plus a letter for your file stating that your termination was unjustified and you left on good terms. That gives you runway to find new work and clears your reputation. $75,000. It would pay off our credit cards, cover Jake's braces, give Sarah's mom a cushion for treatments, give us breathing room. But it would also let Richard keep operating the way he always had. Keep cutting corners, keep putting people at risk. Let me think about it, I said. That weekend I did something I probably shouldn't have done. I drove out to Maple Grove, to the house where the Petersons lived. The beautiful modern farmhouse with the ticking time bomb in the walls. I parked across the street and just sat there, watching. It was a Saturday afternoon, sunny and cold. The front door opened and a woman came out, young, maybe 30, carrying a baby. She strapped the kid into a car seat, drove off in a Subaru. The Peterson family, living their lives. No idea that their house had faulty wiring in the walls that could start a fire while they slept? I pulled out my phone and called Patricia Chen. I don't want the settlement, I said. David! I want to do this the right way. Report everything. Let the building inspectors investigate. If that means I have trouble finding work, so be it, but I can't take his money and let him keep doing this." Patricia was quiet for a moment. "You're sure? Because once we start this, there's no going back." "I'm sure." "Okay, I'll draft the complaint and contact the authorities. Expect this to take time, months, maybe longer. Are you prepared for that?" "Yeah, I'm prepared." I wasn't really. But I was done with shortcuts and rationalizations and doing the wrong thing because it was easier. Patricia filed the wrongful termination lawsuit on November 15th. We submitted my evidence to the county building inspector's office on November 16th. By November 18th, Richard Henderson was getting phone calls from inspectors wanting to review his permits and job sites. He called me on the 19th. I let it go to voicemail. "Dave, it's Richard. Look, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Maybe we were too hasty with the termination. Call me. Let's work this out." I didn't call back. He tried again the next day, and the day after that. Each message a little more desperate, a little more angry. "You're making a big mistake, Dave. You think anyone in this town will hire you after you rat out your own boss? You're burning every bridge you have." Maybe I was, but some bridges deserve to be burned. The investigation took 4 months. Building inspectors went through every job Henderson and Sons had done in the past 3 years. They found code violations on 32 different projects. They red-tagged the medical center. They issued citations for the work at the Petersons' house. The hidden junction box I'd flagged was deemed an immediate safety hazard, and Richard had to pay for repairs. The state licensing board opened their own investigation. They suspended Richard's contractor's license pending a hearing. And the best part? The part that made it all worthwhile? The clients started coming forward. The Petersons sued for negligent construction. So did the medical center. So did the restaurant with the bypassed GFCI protections after their insurance company did an audit. By February, Richard Henderson S. was facing 7 separate lawsuits. Richard tried to blame it all on me, told anyone who would listen that I was a disgruntled employee making false accusations. But the evidence didn't lie. The photographs, the audio recordings, the emails, they painted a clear picture of a business owner who systematically cut corners for profit. Tyler and Brandon tried to distance themselves from the company. Brandon went to work for a competitor. Tyler...
It's been a year now since Richard handed me that termination letter. I'm not going to lie and say everything worked out perfectly. It didn't. The months without steady income were brutal. We burned through our savings and then some. Sarah's mom's treatments continued, and we had to borrow money from my parents to cover a couple of bills. But we made it through. Morrison Electrical Services is a real thing now. Just me, no employees yet, but I'm busy. Referrals from Mr. Peterson led to more work. Word got around that I was the electrician who'd blown the whistle on Henderson, and instead of blacklisting me, people respected it. Not everyone. There are still contractors who won't work with me, who think I'm a rat. But enough people that I'm making a living. A better living, actually. Turns out when you don't have a boss skimming profit off your labor, you can charge fair prices and still take home more money. I'm pulling in about $90,000 a year now, more than I made at Henderson & Sons. And I'm my own boss. I set my hours, I choose my jobs, and most importantly, I sleep at night knowing I'm not compromising anyone's safety. Jake got his braces, Sarah's mom is in remission. We're not rich, but we're okay. Better than okay. And last week, something happened that made it all feel worth it. I got a call from the state licensing board. They wanted to know if I'd be interested in sitting on their ethics committee, a group that reviews complaints against contractors and makes recommendations for license suspensions. "We need people with real-world experience," the woman on the phone said. "People who understand the pressures contractors face, but who are also not willing to compromise public safety." I said yes. So now, once a month, I sit in a conference room with other electricians and contractors and building inspectors, and we review cases.
We look at evidence of code violations, of corner cutting, of contractors who put profit over safety, and we make recommendations. It's volunteer work, unpaid. But it matters, because for every Richard Henderson who gets caught, there are probably 10 more who don't. 10 more contractors making the same calculation I made for years, that the risk of getting caught is worth the profit, that one more shortcut won't hurt, that everybody does it, so why shouldn't they? I can't stop all of them, but I can help stop some of them. Last month, I drove past the old Henderson & Sons shop. The building's empty now, a for lease sign in the window. Richard's fighting the criminal trials, but even if he wins, his reputation is destroyed. His business is gone. His sons won't speak to him. Part of me feels bad about that. 18 years is a long time to work with someone. We had good days, good jobs, moments where I genuinely liked him. But then I think about the Petersons' baby sleeping in a room with faulty wiring below. I think about surgeons who could have been operating in a room with improper electrical systems. I think about all the people who trusted Richard Henderson because he had a local business and a good handshake and a smile. And I don't feel bad anymore. Sarah asked me a few weeks ago if I regretted any of it. The documentation, the lawsuit, the investigation. "Do you wish you'd just taken the settlement money and moved on?" she said. We were sitting on the back porch, watching Jake shoot baskets in the driveway. I said no. I wish I'd never needed to document it in the first place. I wish I'd spoken up the first time Richard asked me to cut corners, instead of waiting until I had 6 months of evidence. I wish I'd been brave enough to do the right thing when it was hard, instead of waiting until I was angry enough to burn it all down. "But you did it eventually," Sarah said. "That counts for something." Maybe. But I spent 18 years compromising, rationalizing, telling myself it was okay because I needed the job, because everyone does it, because it probably wouldn't really hurt anyone. I watched Jake make a basket, the ball swishing through the net. The thing I learned is that doing the right thing isn't a one-time choice. It's 1,000 small choices every day, even when it costs you. Especially when it costs you. Yeah, especially then. I don't know what'll happen with Richard's criminal trial. Maybe he'll go to jail, maybe he won't. Maybe the system will work the way it's supposed to, maybe it won't. But I know this. I did what I could. I spoke up, I provided evidence, I testified. And that has to be enough. Because at the end of the day, I'm not a hero. I'm just a 41-year-old electrician who spent too long doing the wrong thing before he finally did the right thing. I'm not perfect. I'm not brave. I made mistakes, compromised my values, and put people at risk because it was easier than standing up. But when it mattered, when I had a choice between taking the money and keeping quiet, or burning it all down to protect people who'd never even know my name, I made the right choice. That's not redemption. It's not even close to making up for the years I spent looking the other way. But it's a start. And sometimes a start is all you get. You don't get to undo the past. You don't get to go back and make different choices. You just get to decide what you do next. And then the thing after that, and then the thing after that. One small choice at a time, one job at a time, one day at a time. That's all any of us can do. So if you're reading this, or listening to this, or however stories like this reach you, and you're in a situation where someone's asking you to compromise, to cut corners, to do something you know is wrong, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm not going to stand here and pretend it's easy to say no when your mortgage is due and your kid needs braces and your family needs health insurance. But I will tell you this, the rationalizations are endless. There's always a reason to compromise. There's always a reason to tell yourself it'll be fine, that one more time won't hurt, that you'll speak up next time. But eventually, next time becomes never. Eventually, you're 18 years into a career you hate, working for someone you don't respect, doing things that keep you up at night. And when that moment comes, when you finally have to decide who you really are, it won't be dramatic. It won't be some big Hollywood moment. It'll just be you sitting in your truck, looking at your phone, deciding to speak up or stay quiet. Choose carefully, because you're the one who has to live with it. I'm David Morrison. I was fired after 18 years because I finally did what I should have done all along. And I sleep better now than I have in years.